year and a half, and I remember my wife said, "Okay, so we made a big movement to go to Poland, and after that, we made another big movement to return to live in Brazil. And the pandemic is this very complicated time. So now we need to stay in Brazil for a minimum 5 years." And I said, "Okay, I agree. Indeed, we need to stay here." And after 1 year and a half, we moved to Portugal. I'm a sales guy. In the end of the day, I sell something. Now, for example, I'm selling myself.
Filipi Pires. He is the head of Identity Threat Labs at Senhasegura. Hi, Filipe. Nice to meet you.
Hey, sir. It's good to talk to you again. Nice to meet you, and for all that are hearing our conversation today, and it's a pleasure to be here again. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. I see you have a huge number of badges right behind you.
Yeah, last year was quite busy, let's say, and I had opportunity to talk in many events. In Europe, Brazil, and in US, many countries. And oh Jesus, last year I went to Bangkok, Thailand, so the Asia continent. So it was crazy because of the many badges behind me. Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome, and I mean ability to travel, and I think we should value it as recently we were in pandemic and we couldn't travel.
yeah,
So, and I think that is something that we should appreciate nowadays, that we can hop back on a plane, go to places, and see the culture and get inspired, and actually just do a simple handshake with people. It's something that I was very missing during pandemic.
yeah.
And actually, I would like also to congratulate you. I think you've shared recently a post that you had a dream to speak at Black Hat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this was I started my career in cybersecurity in 2015 when I had opportunity. I received the opportunity to work at Micro, and this was the company that opened my mind to understand more about the cybersecurity stuffs. And you know how Timecodes works. The culture about the Ava explained to us to understand how the thread works. So I received this culture. So based on that, I heard about the Black Hat, Defcon. So based on that, I created this dream. 2015, and after 9 years, I received the approval to talk not only in Black Hat in US, but in Black Hat in US and Middle East. So it was a very amazing, year to receive different approvals, different countries, but for the same, let's say event, the Black Hat. It was a dream. Then it happened. It was nice.
That's a milestone, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, really, really congratulate you. How do you, if you would compare Black Hat US with Black Hat Middle East, how it differs?
Wow, that's an amazing question, and I had this both opportunity this the last year, and of course, in US it's very known event. Uh, Actually, when you compare for the breathing space, when you have many sponsors, it's quite similar because it's quite usually it's the same sponsors. On the other hand, in Middle East, for example, you have many other companies from Middle East, from Africa. I mean, from the Israel. You have other brands, of course, but the main brands you can find quite similar, the same. But in terms of the people, let's say, it's quite the same. More than 40,000 people for both events, and during those 3 days, it's a big different. Is very similar, not different, but it's very similar. However, there are an interesting thing when you talk about the Middle East specifically. So this is very curiosity. That's the first time that I mentioned it in any podcast. It's the first time that I mentioned that in English, by the way. And because in Middle East, you can find 50% of the people is women. You can imagine. So if you compare to another events like in US or even in Latin America, because by the way, I'm in Brasilia and in Latin America and the US, on even Europe. So usually in the cybersecurity event or the hacking event, let's say, you can see like in the maximum 10% of the participants, are women. But in Black and Middle East, specifically about Black Hat, more than 50% was women. That's very different. Why this happened? So I ask, of course, for some women there, for some people there, because in Middle East, specifically in Riyadh, in Saudi Arabia, there are specific university for women. Of course, it's a part of the culture, how this works. So it's quite different than the culture. They not separate men from women. That's the difference. But on the other hand, you have many women interested in this kind of field. So because of that, I can saw, many women there. So that's interesting part when you compare for both events. And yes, talk about the US, for example. I was speaker at Arsenal track, when I presented some open source project. And in Middle East, I had opportunity to talk in two different tracks. In the Arsenal, presenting, open source tools and free tools. And I had opportunity to talk in specific at briefing track. Is a kind of not the main stage, but it's a part of important stage inside of the sponsor part. That's the difference.
Based on all the things we kind of know about Middle East, I would probably think that that would be the least diverse event in tech, but you say it's opposite.
Yeah, yeah. That's I was fascinated when I arrived there, and I start to looking around. Like I was a speaker, and I talked, I think, 5 times during the event. No, 6 times. Like, I had opportunity to talk a lot, and but on the other hand, I had a booth from my company because they sponsored not a sponsor, but they had the company was exhibitor, and we had a small booth there. And I look around and I start to see so those differences, like this difference when I saw many women coming to the booth and asking about how they can start in cybersecurity. That's interesting because they graduated college or the university, I mean, then and she came, or many women came to the booth and asking, so how can I start now my career? So, and very young lady, so how I can start, how I can get some opportunity in this field, and this is very different for me, like, for the see when you compare to another events, like it's completely different. Like, this is very interesting.
So you started to work for Trend in 2015.
It was my first opportunity in cybersecurity, because I talked in other podcasts, because my career is quite different when you compare to another's. And I was graduated in process management, so I was salesperson in the past. And I worked 6 years at Dell Computers as an account manager. So it's quite different, yeah. And after 2 or 3 years, receiving some promotions for the sales uh, field, let's say. So I thought, okay, so what is the best characteristic that the best account manager has uh, in the field? So I saw the best account executive at Dell Computer in that time, 2009. They had the technical background, so because of that, they were the best guys, because they know technically and they move into the sales career. So I thought, okay, if the guys has or have whatever the technical background and they move into the sales, is because now they understand more the technical things. They can approach better. They can give in some solutions. So maybe I need to go to the technical career, understand the technical stuffs, and after that I can return to the sales. That was my purpose in 2009. But it's just talk about infrastructure, because the computer is hardware and that's it. However, in 2015, when uh, when I received this, actually cybersecurity chose me, not I chose this area, and I received the opportunity to be a pre-sales at Trend Micro. And I remember my first day at Trend Micro when I went to the room to do the deep security certification. You know this product, and I remember the first day, and the trainer pronounced two or three words, and I remember that time, so I didn't understand nothing about those three words. So I opened the internet, I opened the Wikipedia, and then after that, I read all the three or four terms, and I opened another. And then when I saw I had a 15, browsers open in my in my computer, and the trainer was talking, I don't know, 10 minutes, and I didn't understand nothing. So that's the curiosity, and of course, I knew that I need to effort like myself. I need to give more effort to understand about those threats. So that was my journey, let's say. So that's it. I didn't know nothing, so I need to learn, study, and that's it.
So it's not like you were doing some, law or arts and that kind of thing, and then suddenly you jumped into the tech field. So you worked at Dell, which is still the IT company. So at least you were exposed to the IT field to some certain extent. So it wasn't like it was a completely new to you. So yeah, you started a trend, and then what was your next gig after trend?
I started to work in South America, in South of in the region that I was born in. And after that, I received a promotion at Termicro, and I moved into São Paulo, the big metropolis. Big business are there. And after 4 years work at Termicro, I had a kind of challenge as a pre-sales, because how you can convince the customer that the product is really good. So during the POC, or the proof of concept, so we should desire that the customer receive a kind of attack. That makes sense, right? Like, so how I can convince the customer that my product is really good. So I thought, okay, so I need to create a kind of offensive environment, and I need to explain how the attacker using kind of threats to explore environment, and after that I can defend this environment. So that was my thought in that time. So okay, if I can do this, I need to improve my offensive skills. So based on that, I start to study the offensive part. Based on that, of course, I gained the acknowledgement of the offensive security part. In 2019, I received the one of my friends. He lived he lives in Poland, so he talked to me about a specifically opportunity in Poland, and I thought, okay, why not? And I decided to submit this process, and I made some interviews, made some technical challenge, and I received the offer to move into Poland for a specific company called the EPAM. Is a very known company in Poland. This company is from Belarus, by the way. Their headquarters from Belarus, and that they are growing a lot, and more than 50,000 employees around the world. It's a kind of software house. And yes, I received the approval, received the offer. They sponsored me, and I moved with my whole family to Poland, and to be a penetration tester. That's my role. Actually, it was the idea of the Poland is just to be a first step in Europe. That was my idea in that time. So I was very happy at Trend Micro, let's say, and but I had kind of conversation in Brazil. I had a dream to move into Europe in that time, but Trend Micro has a specifically office in Iberia region. I mean, Spain. The headquarters in Spain. There are another in Ireland, and there are other specifically countries in the region. But I should talk in the language. Let's say, for example, in France, Germany, or whatever. And but I had kind of discussions with the guys in Brazil, and at that time we had a kind of plan, but I should wait in, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, and then on the other hand, I received the offer to move into Poland. And I thought, okay, my dream was to live in Portugal, so I can go to Poland, stay there for 1, 2, 3 years maybe, and after that I can go to Portugal or even Spain, or like some country with the not different language, let's say, because Polish is quite different, the language, when you see. And that was my main goal. Is not my main goal, that I received the opportunity, not because I love Poland, but the country is nice, very nice. The culture is nice. I live in Krakow. Is a very, very beautiful city. I recommend the guys to visit. It's a super nice, very beautiful place. And but just because of that, I received the offer and I moved there. I moved there. Yeah, that's interesting, because let me start with different people in the family. So I have a wife and I have a four kids, not kids actually. I have a son, 22 years old for now, a daughter, 18 years old. Both are steps, but it's mine since the beginning. It's mine, and I have a twins, 9 years old. So the process was so. At that time at Micro, I was talking with the guys, mm, design some plan for the future, and I was receiving some offers from the marketing, Brazil marketing, two or three offers at the same time, and I received the offer from Poland, and that time I discussed with my wife about those possibilities, Brazil, Trend Micro, other companies like UI, for example, Ernest Young. I received an offer from Ernest Young at that time, and it's a big four, and I remembered when I talked with my wife, and she mentioned it. Okay, you are receiving a lot of offers. I cannot do anything. I just would like to know when you have a real offer. So okay, and I remember when I received the offer, the from EPAM system, I just printed the offer and I walked in around the table, her table, and I put in the paper inside of the table, and she'll look at what is this? What is this? And I just tell her, just read, and we can talk in our home. And she look at the offer, the whole offer, because they sponsor everything, like the whole process, the visa process, the tickets, the accommodations 1 month after to moving to Poland. And then after that, we go home and we discuss with the family, with the kids, how it would be nice from to them to learn not only new language, but probably they will using the English to communicate with the colleagues, and after that we decide to move. But I remember this, like this picture, when I printed the offer and I put it in her table. So take a look at this, and that's it. And I just put it and go away. And then after that, she look at what the fuck is that? So read the paper and let's see. We can talk at home. So that was very nice. I don't know, a very nice experience, but it was funny part in this process. And after that, we move in with the family. Actually, Pansys is a so big company. They have a specifically, you know, um, how can I say that? This kind of sponsor process. They have a company, not company, but a specifically team inside of the EPAM system. They are very mature with this process. So this was very nice, because they were organizing everything, the visa process, and the tickets, the insurance, the rental of the hotel when I moved, and they supported me with everything. So it was very nice. Yeah, but that's interesting, because if she, and that time she said, for example, okay, I saw the offer, but I don't want to go to Poland. So okay, I will deny the offer, because we are a family. Like, they need to be happy with me, no matter what the country I live, but they need to be happy. And that was one of the reasons that I moved into the US, because I had a very nice life in Portugal, but my family is not real happy there. So I remember, because man, like in Portugal, I want to live there because of my past experience that I had. I was in 2007, when I was very young, at 21 years old. I went to Portugal to be a missionary from the Baptist church, at that time. So I had a kind of relation with Portugal, like a feeling sentimental things, like emotional things to Portugal. When I returned to live there with my whole family, so they supported me to be there. But the culture of the country is different when you talk about the cybersecurity. I mean, the technical things. Um, when you compare to the whole Europe, or even the US, or even in Brazil, they are a step back, when you compare to another countries. Unfortunately, they are. And that's one of, I lived 3 years in Portugal, and I never worked with the Portuguese company because of the not only the technology but about the salary things. I'm not talking about the tax, because tax you need to pay whatever country you live, but the salary is too small when you compare to other countries. That's the key. And and not only this, but the other things related to the family, about the school. My kids suffering some kind of abuse at school. For the other kids, I go to the school, talk with the principal, but they didn't solve anything. And they don't they want, actually, they when I we talk about the family, they won't be happy there. So because of, I remember the last December, not this year, the last year, 2023, and we was in the table, the Merry Christmas the time. So I talked with my wife, and she said, "Okay, I don't want to more live here." So okay, I said to her, "Okay, so what is the next step?" "I don't care," she told me. She said, "I don't care. I want to go to the US. And do you think it's possible?" She said, "Okay, okay, I will figure it out." "Okay, so let's do this. Now your goal." Okay. So after 10 months, so I moved to the US, and that's it, because they need to be happy. And now here, man, they are very happy. Not only happy, very happy.
I'm really glad. Um, have you had any time in between Portugal and US where when you settled a little bit in Brazil, or you went straight from Portugal to US?
No, actually, I moved into Poland in 2009, and after almost 1 year, started the pandemic. And when I arrived there, so I spent more of part of my time in Poland in the bench, because they don't have any project. They have only small project. They have a kind of specifically guys working this small project. So I was, part of my time was in the bench. So I just did one single red team operation task. Me and my other colleague, we were hiring together, and they finished our contract together because we didn't have any project at that time. And after 1 year in Poland, they decided not renew my contract, and was in the middle of the pandemic. And I was discussing with companies in Ireland, Germany, but was pandemic, so they kind of they put in the freezing the opportunity. And at that time, I received the offer to move into Brazil again, to return to Brazil. One of my friends, he was a vice president of the company in Brazil. So they made an offer to me, like, to return to Brazil, and I said, why not? He offered me a very nice project to working really with the threat research, and actually, the name was threat research, but I was more cross. I working more cross. I needed at that time to help into building the red team, the blue team, AppSec team, threat hunting team, whatever. But I had the promise to work with the threat research. So based on that, I accept the offer, and I returned to live in Brazil in the middle of the pandemic. So I live in Brazil during 1 year and a half. And I remember my wife said, "Okay, so we made a big movement to go to Poland, and after that, we made another big movement to return to live in Brazil. In the pandemic is this very complicated time. So now we need to stay in Brazil for a minimum 5 years." And I said, "Okay, I agree. Indeed, we need to stay here." And after 1 year and a half, we moved to Portugal. She always kill me, but actually, she decided, "Okay, let's go to Portugal. Okay, let's go." That's it.
Well, pandemic, after 2 years, you would be ready to pack your stuff or completely naked and go wherever you see, just to leave that point because you're stuck there. So I mean, it, it's logical. But then they were unhappy, and you made it to US. When you started to work for Senhasegura?
Actually, it was interesting part. It was, I think, it's the same time that we met with between in the trade microprocess. Remember when I made the interview to be the technical trainer? By the way, if you're first time here to hearing, so I tried to return to Trend Micro, and Alexei didn't approve of me actually. And
Yeah, it was me who pressed the red button.
and at that time I was doing different participation in events as a speaker. And one of this opportunity, I spoke at cybersecurity leadership in Berlin. And at the same time, the CEO from Senhasegura was there, and the CEO and the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. And both of them watched my talk. And during my talk, they sent a message by LinkedIn to me. And just because I'm Brazilian, they are Brazilian, so it was very nice because we met both in Germany. Like it's different. So based on that, basically because of that. And after that, so we made a meeting. So we started a small project to work together in 2021. And I was basically a cybersecurity advocate, let's say. So they hired me to work during 2 hours or 4 hours. It started 2 hours, and after first month, they increased for 4 hours per day. Just was the objective. So I remember that time. So I worked very closely to the marketing team, to doing some webinars, to talking conference, and to helping Senhasegura to increase the brand awareness. That was my main goal. I remember. So they had at that time 2,000 followers on LinkedIn, and after 1 year, they increased it to the 15,000. So it's a big uh, movement, and not only this, but they change how they using the YouTube channel approach. So the the Twitter, now X, and I helped the team to increase the brand awareness during 1 year, 1 year and a half. And but just a part-time job, let's say. That was when I started.
When you end up somewhere, you look and see, like, yeah, but that was actually the right decision, or the right meeting, or the right time. So your part-time job turned into something bigger.
I remember one of the beginning, the first conversation. So Marcus asked me, "What you are dreaming cybersecurity?" And I said, "Okay, my dream is to create a big, threat research team. That's my main goal. And based on that, I will do threat research. I will create a paper. I will talk in conference. I can talk in DEF CON on Black Hat." That was in 2021. And he said, "Okay, cool." And I add, by the way, and I said, "Okay, as a cybersecurity company, we need to have the team. So if you don't have, we need to have. I can build it." And that was the purpose. And he said, "Okay, but we don't know, we don't be in this stage right now. So we are Brazilian company. We are growing the market. Spread our product in Europe. We want to go to the US, but we don't have actually budget to invest in research. You know how you can convince the business company investing in threat research. And even if you if you're not a real antivirus company, like how I need to study about the threat research if I'm a pen solution, like Senhasegura, it's a pen solution. If you're first time hearing that, so pen is a privileged access management. So it's based on the permission that the user has in the environment. So what this makes sense with the threat? Antivirus you can protect against threats, but pen solution, how you can protect? So we need to convince the companies need to be more mature to understand those type of things. But I remember in 2021. So he asked me, and I answered. That was my dream. And he said, "Okay, we can build that." Remember 2021. So we are 2025 now, 4 years after. So, and he said, "Okay, we can create that, but I don't know when, but we can do this." So for now, he said, "I want you in my company." So I want to hear to do something for a few hours, no matter how many hours, but few hours. We can start with that. Are you happy with that? He asked me the same question. So I can, okay, okay. We can start with 2 hours, and after that, I can move in more if it's possible, if I have a time, of course. So now we are here to building this, and that was amazing. have been amazing.
I think you can count this as your personal win. That's courage, that's persistence, and yeah, it's your personal achievement.
I received many no's. Like, I remember, so I have a kind of challenge to convince not my own company, like, the Senhasegura, to understand the position about, the threat research and the advocate part of the action, the tasks and activities. And I received many no's. I remember the first year I was in the pandemic, and then after that we moved into the, physical events. And I remember I said, okay, I need to go to DEF CON. In the first year, I didn't go. And the second year, I talk again with the team to convince, because they needed to sponsor me to go there. They need to, to pay the tickets, the hotel.
It's not a cheap venture, right?
Exactly, that's the key. Because I'm not spending few days in Portugal or even in Brazil. No, it's in Las Vegas, man. It's too expensive. Like, and there are three events: the Hacker Summer Camp, like, there are Black Hat besides Las Vegas and DEF CON. So it's the three main events. So they said to me, okay, we can sponsor you if you talk in a conference. So okay, let's do this. So I remember, I the first time that I went to DevCon was now last year, 2023, was the first time that I went to DevCon. I spoke four times, three times at Red Team Village. That we can see the in my background here, the banner from Black Hat from Red Team Village is a part of the village inside of the DevCon. So I spoke three times, not three times, four times, because I remember that at that time one of the speaker has a problem, and one of the founders came to me and asked, "Okay, do you have another talk?" I have. I'm done. So let's do this. And I remember I went to the room. I picked up my laptop and I opened the virtual machine, and I said, okay, let's talk about the malware. So, okay, what we can talk about malware? Okay, let me download some malware from our bazaar, and let's do the investigation right now. Let's see what happened. That I did it. I just did it. And after the workshop, I remember the guys, why you need to, we didn't finish the investigation. Okay, but I just have one time, 1 hour. There are another speaking. So I said to them in the beginning, so I don't have any talk, prepared. So I just opened them hour and let's see what happened here in the PDF stuffs. And that was super nice. And the second year, I spoke six times at DEF CON. So, uh, and after many no's that I received, now is different. So, but I need to persistent, like you mentioned, for 3 years explain how things works, and that's the part of the journey. You receive, hearing me and believe me, you receive many no's. Like, I received two no's from Trey Micro, from the technical trainer. It's necessary, because I had kind of gaps, and I still have some gaps. I need to learn, I need to improve. That's part of the journey.
Nobody's perfect. We all have gaps. The quote from Rocky was,
The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward.
when it comes to threats, every region has its own threats and challenges, or threats are more or less kind of a universal pain across the globe, no matter where you're at.
Actually, it's a good discussion, because, in my humble opinion, so there are different things when you talk about the threats. Mia has a Brazilian guy, for example. There are specifically, guys focus on Brazil, talking about the financial stuffs, looking the fraud or something like this. And of course, on the other hand, in Brazil, you have like the ransom attack, you have a kind of info stealer or something like this, but focus on fraud. If you think about the Latin America, the Spanish countries, you know. We can see more about this, some apt groups focus on, financial, like Lazarus group or something like this. You can see some things like this. When you see for the North America, you can see the many different threats because many countries try to achieve, to attack the US. So the possibilities to understand about the threats in North America is biggest when you compare to another countries. I lived in Portugal and Poland, and in this case, is more next to the Russia. So you know how this works in this case. So to have another bunch of possibilities. On the other hand, if you compare to Middle East, is very close, very closer to the Israel, that you have another kind of conflict with against another country. So of course there are kind of war, physical war, but there are cyber war. You know how this works. So that's the interesting. So if I just to summarize everything, my thoughts is, of course you have a general attacks or general threats, and but if you go more deeply to the apt groups or different techniques, so you can find the major groups that you can find, for example, MITRE framework, MITRE track frameworks. You can see those groups, and if you see some attack, for example, happening in, let's suppose, in Germany for the energy company, probably comes to the specifically PT groups from the specifically, in the West Europe, or even they are attacking other companies, the similar market, like the same energy group or group, not the company, but the same market, like let's say the energy, different countries. So um, of course, there are in two ways. There are specifically threats for each region, but on the other hand, there are general attacks based on the APT groups. So I don't know if I can answer the question, but like there are many possibilities. There are, of course, specifically, but are general attacks.
What's the identity threat labs is? What you are investigating there? What are you researching there?
Usually, the cybersecurity companies, they focus on the malware, how that threat works. So my main goal at Identity Threat Labs is to understand how the attacker are using identity to explore environment. Because, like, okay, to execute itself, the ransomware in the environment is just possible because of the permission that this user has. If this user don't have the permission, they cannot execute the ransomware inside of the environment. So if the attacker can impersonate some user, the things that you do in the environment is based on the permission that this user has. So basically, the identity threat labs is focused on the how the attacker are using identity to explore environments. And I'm talking about the on-premise, hybrid cloud environments, hybrid and cloud environments, or whatever environment. And not only this, but how the attackers can move laterally inside of the environment. So all those type of things about the threats. Actually, in the other hands, it's quite the similar approach of whatever threat labs that you know, but my focus is more in identity because I can help not only the company to protect their assets, but I can help the policeman enforcement, the police, and the other organization. And if I understand how is the strategy used by the attacker, I can bring some new technology to the product because we have a pen solution as a core solution, but we are moving now for the identity solution. So if I understand how the attacker are using identity to explore environment, I can help bring some new technology to the product. So is another part of the job. And but basically the identity threat labs is focused on that. So to doing research about the threats, APT groups, vulnerabilities, and all the type of things.
It's a long-term shot, right? So it's something that you will, so you place a seed and you will probably get the fruits maybe like in 5 years, maybe in month, who knows, but it's something that really for the long term.
Definitely. As a company, let's say I we are part of the dreaming when you talk about the company, because as a Brazilian company, our CEO bring this kind of culture to us. So how we can spread the message, not only to offering a product in Brazilian market, but to helping company to protect their datas, like based on the permission and identity. So I'm really believing in this future in the company. So for now, I didn't imagine to work in another company because they have a very nice culture. Like we are based on people, so we believe in the people, and we are in the moment that we are moving this kind of scenario when you talk about the product. We are going to depend to the identity, and I'm a part of this journey. So I'm really happy because I can help not only talking about the threads, but I can see my DNA, in the product. That's interesting because, for example, just one example. So one of the talks that I'm doing about the cloud security and attack path at BlackHat, at DevCon, is about a specific project that we created, and it's based. We created a specifically community version because I convinced the board level to bring to bring the community, to give the community this opportunity to to give the free project. They can see how this project this uh, receiving some recommendations in the cloud, and based on that, I have opportunity to create attack modules for the product. So when I see the product, I can see, okay, this is I created. That's a super nice. It's a kind of DNA, like.
So tell me more about this community version and what it does, what kind of problem it solves.
The big issue when you talk about the cloud is about observability. Of course, you have many products in the market about the observability. Okay, you can go there. What is the best product that we can find? It depends of your environment. You need to test whatever product you want, and basically, what the project that we created is based on the we go to the cloud environments, AWS, Azure, GCP, OCI, Oracle Cloud. We collect informations from the IAM, Identity Access Management. Basically, this is the service responsible for giving the permission and authenticate in cloud environment. So we collecting those informations and we bring some recommendations about the security. That's the main goal of the cloud entitlement project. Is a cloud entitlement the name, and basically, so we bring some recommendations. For example, if the user are using, for example, MFA enabled or not enabled, or for example, if the user, what is the last time that they log in the console web, or if it's during the 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days, for example. And there are different policies, security policies based on AWS, GCP, Azure, OCI. So that's the main goal of the cloud entitlement. That's the problem that we solve. So bring the visibility about what is the risk about those permissions, and the over privilege. For example, imagine that you receive a permission group to receive the administrator access to access many services in the AWS, for example. Like AWS has a specifically policy default called the administrator access. So based on this uh, policy, there are a bunch of actions inside of this, a checkbox, bunch of actions. So if you receive this, maybe you have an access a bunch of service, but do you know how many services you really use in the last year, for example? Maybe the users in the company just using, for example, AM service, EC2 or Lambda, whatever. But there are more than 400 services that never use in 1 year. So it's totally overprivileged. That's the key. So we solve this kind of problem. And the plus about technology, I designed the attack path, feature. So I created attack modules for the product. So we have I have a five attack modules created by me. So I create the logic of the attack, I test it, and I talk with the developer team, and I put in the back end and front end. This is as I mentioned, about understand how the thread works, and understand that I can bring the technology to the product.
When we also talk about observability, most of the time the observability is not equals to security, right? So majority of the observability products in the most case, when we start to talk about the observability, this is mostly a resource usage monitoring, the cost optimization monitoring. and that kind of stuff. So security was it's a completely separate thing, and most of the time you actually need a different solution specifically for security, because the thing that does good observability really lacks the security functionality, and most of the time the security thing is not going to show you the performance and cost optimization metrics. It's again a different focus.
Yeah, that's interesting because when I started this research was 2021, 22, in the beginning of the year. So I made some research. It is an interesting part of my career because I've been working for the last 3 years working as a security research, not threat research. Threat research was the last year, but last if you compare 3 years was a security research. What do you mean, Philip? Threat security research. The research is based on how I can bring a new technology to the product. It's more a product view, you know. And I remembered I found, for example, cartography is an open source project. I found AWS PX, and there are a bunch of other open source projects that bring this visibility that you mentioned. And there are type of specifically security things that recommended and looking from the graph mode or the graph models. On the other hand, they don't have the security experience based on the threads. They are a simple pool of the many connectors that can put in many identities inside of that, and based on cloud, based on tools like Kubernetes, like GitLab, GitHub, or whatever. And you need to put in the database, like for example Neo4j databases or MathGraphs database. But you need to be the how you can put in the cipher queries is a kind of challenge because many people don't know how this cipher queries works. They prefer more user friendly. So this is a kind of pain that the market has. So based on that, I said to the Senhasegura, okay, we collecting informations from the cloud entitlements. We have it in our background, in our backend, all those identities. So if I have this pool, I can bring this information in the graph mode. And I said to the developer team and the CTO, and they said, okay, very nice. Bring me more example. And I bring some example of the market about, for example, the Bloodhound and the Spectral Ops or something like this, focus on offensive part. And he said, okay, that's make totally sense to put in. We have this data. We have. Okay, so let's put in so let's design the attack. Let's put in that. And that's it. But again, to building these attack modules is based on the acknowledgement that we have how the attacker are using, you know, exploits, vulnerabilities, exploit misconfiguration, or even using, for example, techniques different techniques. So that's the key, the main goal to talk about the identity threat labs.
Yeah, so everything starts with the research. You need to understand the behavior of either the point of entry, or which holes it tried to leverage, or which specific access it requires, and so on. You need to get this information before you start to crafting something. Otherwise, it makes no sense. You can create a screwdriver, but you needed a hammer. So then it's definitely, and if you don't have it in house, then most likely you need to buy this kind of information somewhere, which in a short term might be effective, but in a long run, it might be not that cost effective.
Yeah, I have been working for the last 3 years in two different companies. One of these companies was a new startup company, and I worked 1 year and a half at this company, and I was responsible for creating attack modules specifically for AWS. And I started to do some research for the Okta at that time. And yes, it's challenging. We can start with a small project, but for the long term, it's complicated. We need to create your own.
So, what do you think about cybersecurity then and now? How industry changed, and actually, had it changed?
Yeah, actually, they every day they are creating new different terms and acronyms for you know.
I think it's not a flaw of cybersecurity. I think it's just the biggest problem in the tech world. Everybody creates a new acronym, everybody creates his own vision of how the things should be named, and you just every day you look at this and you just sometimes you think like, why?
Yeah, yeah, you know that. So I remember when arrived in the cybersecurity field. It's not cybersecurity that time. It was a security. Like it just the first word to start with that. Like when I started Trend Micro, I work in the security company. The security field. But now it's cybersecurity. What the difference? That's the main. I remember when I started to work in 2015. So after, I don't know, 6 months, I heard something about, okay, so some competitor has a kind of next generation antivirus. What is that? Okay, just now using behavior monitoring. Okay, so they start to work using machine learning. So okay, nice. And it came to Palo Alto, or uh, whatever country, or Fortnite or something like this. So they created a next generation firewall. Okay, so next generation. What is the next generation? Are they putting behavior monitor? Are they putting sandbox inside of the analysis? Come on, man. So just a new. That's it. What the difference when you compare to all those 8 years? I think it's just acronym names and split names, split teams. Like in the past we sell Trend Micro for the security team. Now you need to sell Trend Micro for the blue team. That's it. And okay, if you have like the Vision One, the strategy to see the graphic things, you can sell this product, for example, for the offensive part or the purple team. Or now you need to sell this product for the cloud team. Like or you can sell it for the DevSecOps team. DevSecOps is not team; it's a culture, but it should be the application security team or yellow team. Come on, it's a many different names. Like we have the bullshit bottom now here. Bang. So that's the key. So if you remember when I start in security slash cybersecurity 2015. So do you remember what is the biggest attack in that time? I can tell you was Target. You remember this attack? The Target attack. It started in 2013, and after that they published in 2015.
Yeah. So and also I think Petya in Ukraine.
Do you want to cry? Yeah. 17? Yeah. In May? Yeah, exactly. Petya was 2 months after. 2 months is starting in May. Petya, it was in June or July. And so you see, that's if you think the biggest problem is based on, I cannot use in this word because it's not polite, but it was the misconfiguration. Someone didn't apply the patch. Nowadays, continue to be the same thing.
It's always the same thing, right? It's always the same thing.
Yeah.
Where is ransomware? So we used to hear about, at least I used to hear about ransomware from coming from every fridge in the world. Like ransomware here, ransomware there, this got ransomware. What happened with ransomware right now? Where I'm just it's my take on this, so you can correct me if I'm wrong. Was it that at some point the malicious actor understood that just encrypting the whole thing and asking a Bitcoin for that is not as profitable as actually dumping the data and sell it?
Wow, that's man is an excellent observation. And I have some hours available. Sometimes I do some consulting service, and I helped some company in Europe. And basically, one of my investigation that I did is happening exactly in this way. So now the threat actors, they are not just encrypted and that's it. They collecting data, and after 6 months, they sell in the dark web to be more profitable. That's it. Yeah, that's the strategy nowadays.
So you may dump the data, get out, and to some extent, probably nobody going to catch you in like 2 years or so, until someone's going to do an update of their security suite, and it starts to flag some malicious traffic, right? But if you do the ransomware, that's it. You came out of the shadows. Everybody knows you. Everybody knows the thing. So yeah, it's just a profitable. It all comes down to profit.
The attackers understand that they can need to do something more profitable. Doesn't For them, I think, doesn't matter if they stop the company. They need to be profitable because they encrypted the environment the past and they request a payment, and the company returned the backup, didn't pay nothing, is not profitable. So they think, okay, so we need to become this thing more profitable. So how can I do that? Just dumping data. And actually the company is just to figure that this understand that it was attacked after the data was exposed. Okay, the data was exposed. They sell something. Oh my goodness, they need to check in the logs. When they check in the logs, okay, we suffer an attack. So I saw in the Germany company, in the company just published something, and they published, okay, yeah, they are selling our data, but the attacker first happened in July. They are selling in October. So, that's the key. Yeah, they becoming more profitable, and that's it. Like, for some reason, sometimes for the defensive perspective, it's easier to understand how you can investigate when some APT groups assume this attack. Like, for example, let's suppose, if I'm Lazarus group, or if I'm another group, I publish something. Okay, so I'm responsible for this attack. In this case, for the company, for the defensive perspective, it's easier to invest. Not easier. It's not too easy, but they need to investigate more. They have a kind of direction to go. On the other hand, if no one group assume these attacks, they they completely blind.
Would you say that the data exfiltration and all that profit thing matters mostly to the criminal gangs, so the ones that are looking at it as a business, and APTs, the state sponsored groups, they're not after the money, and they more about causing the harm, or actually do some, let's say, quite a covered military operation.
Uh, yes, actually, there are different. When you talk about the threat actors, I agree with you. Like, there are type of attacks focus on profitable things, like, to keeping the activities. But of course, there are other type of attacks that focus on totally in the station nation, like the station nation attack, as we know. Because one example is, for example, I remember there are one specifically attack. It happened, I think, 2 months ago, in a specifically energy company in Romania. If you are hurry now, you can type in the internet and put in Romania attack. You will see. There one specifically our rule created by the one specifically hash. So no one group assuming this attack. But if you see, is not is was an attack, ransomware attack. But if you see, is an critical infrastructure, because it's the main energy company in Romanian. So in this case, it's more like station nation attack. On the other hand, can be a profitable, but no one group assuming this attack, so it's quite challenged to understand what should be the answer in this specific case that I bring in now. But of course, there are kind of attacks difference. I think one is more focused on government, and there are kind of war interest and on that, and the other attacks is more profitable, like focus on really in the money.
Biggest challenges for security, for cybersecurity, because right now I can ask for free a chat gpt, and to register in chat gpt I only need some kind of an email, and I can create a fake email from from a smaller service somewhere in in Honduras or in Uganda, and probably they don't actually even check who is behind that. So I just get this one, and then I register in chat gpt. I use some kind of a VPN or any way to kind of uh, to trace me back to a wrong thing, or even I can just buy computer for that. Ask ChatGPT to create a script that will work in 60-70% of the cases. So it's never been as easy as now to do bad things. So what do you think? And with AI, with the same with a deep fake, you can appear in Teams meeting, and I can be your CEO. And right now, you will be able to notice, but let's say 2-3 years from now, it would be barely noticeable for a human eye. So how do you think, what are the biggest challenges for the secure cybersecurity field right now, and maybe in a couple of years?
I think the bigger challenge, the biggest challenge is to talk about the. I will talk about identity, one of the things, because this is the way that we, like in the past, for example, just to one example, in the past it is very difficult to talk about the DLP, data loss prevention, how you can qualify the data that you need to protect. This is the challenge in the past. So now the challenges for this type of things is my opinion is, again, is identity, because in the past we just have the domain admin, the domain controller responsible for give the domain admin, that's it. So nowadays there are cloud service, they need to connect in, which, like a puzzle, we need to have the identity access management to give in these permissions or not. But for the developer perspective, you need to have the administrator access to, to go to these services and putting together and to running the infra as a code. So it's administration permission and admin permissions in the end of the day. So based on that, you can create enough, a bullshit script, like use an AI. You can, put embedded the kind of malicious script inside of the PDF, and that's it, and send it to the financial team or the HR team, and they will open, because this is the daily day by day. This is the daily activities. Open PDFs. That's it. And so how I can, classify those identities, how I can give you those permissions to the company. This is one of the challenge, and the other challenge is about the security sensors. Like, we need to thinking about the layers, different layers, how you can protect. You need to bring the difficulty of the attackers, putting different layers to protect your assets. I mean, the company, the organization. And the third challenge, in my opinion, is the awareness, the training awareness. So if the company understand more about those challenge, those risks, maybe they can, identify kind of suspicious activities, suspicious things. Because, from now until the future, like I read an article from the Now Before, and I don't know if you read this article, the Now Before. So they hired a guy in the US, but they passed in the process. They made 4 interviews, 2 technical interviews, and they received the laptop. And but they received the laptop here in US. That's not a real guy. This was a real guy hiring by the China, no, North Korea, and they needed to install the malware, and this malware was responsible for connecting to the CNC in China, or China, no, the North Korea. So, and then Now Before published this article, and they picture this guy, they using the AI, and that is an incredible things. So, in the imagine, so Now Before is from phishing. So they're suffering, and that's it, because they're hiring the guy here in US, the physical guy. Of course, during the process of the interview, the guy was responsible for made these interviews living in North Korea. I think it's North Korea. Maybe it's wrong, but I think it's some country from there. Okay, and that's the key. Of course, they hiring some people here. The guy just received the money just to receive the laptop and open the executable. That's it. But of course, the company has an antivirus, detect the things, open a super case and a SOC team, and one the guy responsible for discovering these things was a Brazilian guy. That's the guy. It's my friend, by the way. He lives here in the US, and he said to me the whole process. Of course, they said things to me that they open things to the internet, because FBI are involved with this investigation.
AI. Um, Does it helps or it's not helping at all?
I thought in the in last not last year in 2023, until that time, I thought that can creating security guys lazy, let's say. But after understand how the AI can help the guys, I changed my mind. Like nowadays, I think helping a lot if you using the right way.
Yeah. So, and I would like to tackle the Flipper Zero, the tiny pocket tool that made a huge boom, and that you can't, in some countries, you can't even import that.
The Brazilian guy bought when they go to DefCon, they bought and they cross their fingers when they return to Brazil. That's it.
Is it a good thing to have such a pretty much a powerful pocket tool uh, freely available, or it's a bad thing?
Like you mentioned something interesting about the script kit, and I saw in Brazil many guys don't have a good knowledge in cybersecurity, bought the type of things, and to be a hacker, like attacker or something like this. But I think it's very similar to the gun example. Like in a good hands, they can do good things. Maybe for the penetration testing guy using kind of red team operation activities, they can use is a powerful tool to use in this in a physical penetration testing. When you talk about the red team operation, it's more physical things. I think you can use that if you have kind of problem to go to the websites or permissions. So if you need to go physically, maybe can help you a lot. On the other hand, it's a very tiny line. Like you can go up, you can do bad things like criminal things. Mainly here in US because the law is very, let's say, good here. When you compare to Brazil, they doesn't care. Like if you do bad things. They just if you stole big money in Brazil, like. And but my thoughts about is basically uh, the guys that have a good knowledge in cybersecurity that I know that bought uh, this product, for example, they do more for fun things, not for the uh, jobs or bad things. They're using for funny things, like not for the real scenario, like.
What's in your agenda? Any talks? Any conferences?
Actually, this year I probably were involved with some events here in US, like RSA, Black Hat, DEF CON, and the main event in the field, like Black Hat Middle East. I received the invitation to talk at Black Hat Asia. Would be very nice, but I won't be able to be there. And but basically, my next events will be here in US probably. I have a kind of events in Brazil, maybe the B sides or even the Hacker to Hackers is the main conference in Brazil in December. But most part of my year will be spent here in US.
Yeah. What would be your take, the physical event and physical demonstration, physical live talk versus the online? Once pandemic is over, so we are not kind of forced to be always online. There a place for physical events. How do you feel the difference? What is different, and do you prepare differently when you are talking online versus the physical event?
Actually, depends of the event because usually I prefer to talk. I prefer to do some demonstrations in live, and I don't like to record my demos because I like to do real scenarios. And when I have kind of problems in life, I like it. I like because this is the real life, the real scenario. I remember this year at Black Hat, I have a problem when I do some integration with my GitHub Actions and environment, and the people look at me. So what happened now? So no, relax. I need to just rewrite the EML file here. I need to do the integration, and I did this. And because I said in the conference, that's the real life scenario. So I like the in person event, and my preparation. is similar, is quite the same for both events. Uh, when you talk about your virtual event, is just is more simple because you just to present. In fact, you can see some people online, but you don't receive sometimes the feedback from the attendees. So that's a good part when you talk about in person. So I like to do some jokings during my speech. So sometimes I prefer more in in person because of that. But because of the pandemic, I learned how you can request this feedback from the virtually attendees.
Do you have sometimes a feeling that when you do online, then the folks on the other end are busy with something else? For example, they're not actually participating or watching you doing things, but they may answer an email, cleaning cat's litter, or um, wiping the floors, and just looking. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, do you have this? Do you afraid of it, or it's like you don't care? You just go out, do the thing, and whatever you do, it's your problem.
I don't care is a very dangerous word, but I understand what your question. But for me as a speaker, I just need one person hearing me. One person watching me is enough. No matter if I have one person, if I have 1,000 or 10,000 people, doesn't care. For me, doesn't care. I will give my the best I can do. I will do my best for one person.
If you impacted the life of one person, it's already a win.
One is enough.
So obviously, you do a lot of stuff, for work and so on. Do you have any hobbies or activities that you have outside of tech?
Yeah, for sure. And I go to church. Uh, Sometimes Saturday, sometimes Sunday, and the Baptist church or whatever it is, as a Christian church, let's say. And I play instruments like I play drum, keyboards, guitar, acoustic guitar, bass, and I like games. I play football, I play basketball, and it's quite different. We talk about some activities that I like it, and again in the beginning of the conversation I said that I have a big family, so I like to enjoy with my family in the weekend. So usually I turn off my computer, my phone, and I like to enjoy with them.
So, what if you wouldn't found a tech or wouldn't found cybersecurity? What you would do if not tech?
I will sell something. I'm a sales guy. In the end of the day, I sell something. Now, for example, I'm selling myself.
We've just invented the time machine, and you're going back 20 years from now. You meet yourself, and you can give an advice to yourself, but one condition: it's not a butterfly effect, so it's not going to impact your current yourself. So it's not like you return back and you find that you're all alone in a shed outside of Los Angeles, nobody cares about you, and so on.
I will give the advice that I received when I had 25 years old, 26 years old, and I didn't hear it in that time. My manager, I received this advice and I didn't hear, and I lost many opportunity in my life because of that I didn't see this advice. But the advice would be, Philip, focus your life to learn English. So I started talking English in 2018, only 6 years, 6 years, 7 years, 7 years, 7 years from now. So, and my first talk in English was in 2019. So if I look back, so that's the advice, man. Learn language. This is my advice for my kids.
Microsoft or Google?
Oh man, I just need to. It depends. Actually, I think Google.
GitLab or GitHub?
Oh, GitHub.
AWS or Microsoft Azure?
AWS.
You need to pick a team: blue team or red team?
Oh man. I think the more sexy part is red team. I pick red team always.
Sure. All right. So if folks would like to follow you up, where they should look for you?
Okay, so there are some contacts. They can find me on LinkedIn. Okay, it's Filipi Pires, Filipi Pires, and they can find me on X or Twitter. It's a Filipe Pires, the same name, and I publish some tools, articles on both of those social medias, let's say. And I use a lot. I like to use in the GitHub and the Philippe 86, Filipi 86. Usually I publish some articles, small tools that I've been created, and of course I shared something about the identity threat labs, because on GitHub we have identity threat labs there. And Instagram, I have on my Instagram, it's a corporate Instagram, let's say, not corporate, but I put in the talks there and other things. It's Felipe Pires, DocSec. That's it. So this is the main, let's say. Of course, and I have a YouTube channel. It's not exactly YouTube channel. I mean, is the place that I put in my talks, publish it, you know, so that I kind of playlist in English, in Spanish, and Portuguese language. So you can watch it if you want in both these three languages.
Do you have any web page?
Yes, I have. It's philippepires.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for uh, participating in my podcast. It was a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to me. It's a big pleasure.
And well, see you again soon.
Yeah, see you soon. Bye bye, guys.